today to discuss the 21-22 entitlement program year for CDBG, Home, and ESG, also known as Emergency Solutions Grants. Derek, thank you. Yep. Next slide. So, just want to give you an idea of our previous program year funding. You'll see that we spent approximately $2.5 million on CDBG activities, $280,000 with program income, $215,000 for emergency solution grants, and $658,000 for the home program, for a total of $3.7 million. We estimate a similar funding amount this year, with a small increase expected in the CDBG funding, no change expected in the program income, a small increase expected in the Emergency Solutions Grant, and no change expected in the Home Investment Partnership. Some critical dates to keep in mind are the notice of funding announcement was in the paper on February 3rd, 2021. Today is our first of two public meetings held on WebEx. Tomorrow will be the second meeting, and we will hold that at 6 o'clock p.m. for those who couldn't make it during the daytime. February 26th, the applications are due by 12 p.m., and April 1st begins the 21-22 program year. We expect to have our submission of the annual action plan to HUD in late April and early May of this year. So first, we just wanted to give a little bit of an overview of the Community Development Block Program, also known as CDBG, and let you know the eligible activities as well as HUD's national objectives. First and foremost, we have assistance to persons of low to moderate income. A goal being to provide safe and decent, affordable housing, a suitable living environment, and expanded economic opportunity, as well as aid in the elimination of slums and blight, with help in programs like demolition, the facade program, and other such programs. Urgent need to alleviate emergency conditions such as global pandemic, earthquake, hurricane, tornado, and other acts of nature. To give you an idea of what we funded in the previous year, the majority went to public facilities improvements. We had the demolition of 313 James Street, which was the old Cornhill Senior Center. Economic development, facade program around the MVHS project, brownfield remediation at the old Mealy manufacturing site, historic preservation of the Uptown Theater, public services, youth activities, senior activities, and administration. The next is the Home program, Home Investment Partnerships program, and this revolves around affordable housing. So included in this is our commitment to providing decent, safe, and affordable housing for all, alleviating the problems of severe rent burdens, homelessness, and deteriorating housing, tailor housing strategies to meet local needs. Funds are used to leverage state and private funding to acquire, rehabilitate, and/or construct housing units. Depending on the particular project, funding and long-term affordability goals, these activities will be carried out by nonprofit developers, profit developers, and nonprofit community housing development organizations, also known as CHODOs. In the previous year, the City of Utica was able to fund a link at Sunset, which is the Kelberman Center New construction of 60 units on the site of the former Sunset School, South Utica. McCardivan Apartments, that was a rehabilitation of 60 units of a building on Genesee Street in downtown. UNHS Home Ownership Center Lead Hazard Reduction Program, and UNHS Home Ownership Center programs including homeowner rehabilitation and first-time home buyer down payment assistance. Finally, the Emergency Solutions Grant, also known as ESG. The four areas in which we fund projects are homeless street outreach. This is an essential service necessary to reach unsheltered homeless individuals and families, connecting them with emergency shelter, housing, or critical services, and provide them with urgent, non-facility-based care. The second is emergency shelter. This would include renovation of a building to serve as an emergency shelter, essential services for individuals and families in emergency shelter, and shelter operations, as well as relocation assistance. And there's homelessness prevention, housing relocation, and stabilization services, and/or short and/or medium-term rental assistance necessary to prevent the individual or family from moving into an emergency shelter. And lastly, rapid rehousing. Housing relocation and stabilization services and short and/or medium-term rental assistance is necessary to help individuals or families living in an emergency shelter or other place described in homeless definition move as quickly as possible into permanent housing and achieve stability in that housing. In the past year, we've funded several programs, including Johnson Park Center, their family shelter, Rescue Missions Men's Shelter, the YWCA Hull House Domestic Violence Shelter, MHA's Homeless Street Outreach and Rapid Rehousing Team, Utica Center for Development, Homelessness Prevention and Rapid Rehousing, as well as ICANN and their Rapid Rehousing program, and of course, administration. For anybody new to this, I know most of you joining have probably been pretty familiar with CDBG, Home, and ESG and the protocol in the past. If there's anybody new here, are there any questions or comments about proposed projects that you may have?
I have a question about deadlines. You mentioned 2 dates. Which program is specific to which?
All 3 programs have the same deadline.
Okay, you mentioned an April 1 deadline and a February 26 deadline, unless I misunderstood you.
Yep, so the deadline is February 26th. For applications, I apologize if that wasn't clear. Applications are due February 26th, and April 1st is just the official start of the 2021-2022 funding.
Understood. Thank you.
You're welcome. Are there any other questions?
Will these slides be made available online or at another location? Yeah.
Yes, these will be available on our city website and YouTube.
I have a question about the application. In looking it over in previous years for the certification page, like last year, we had the signature notarized. Do we need to do that again this year?
We'd like to see it notarized, yes, if at all possible.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Do you have any questions about, new potential projects or whether or not something might be eligible?
Can you just talk again about like the process? Obviously, they're due the 26th, and then when did the grants? Okay, here we go. They're okay. When are they reviewed? They're starting to be reviewed right around April. Is that when they're reviewed and then the funding's announced?
Applications will be reviewed internally as soon as we receive them.
Okay.
Once decisions have been made for preliminary, once the City of Utica has determined allocations, they'll send those proposed allocations to HUD for approval in this annual plan. And once we receive the green light from HUD, we will contact the individuals that have applied and get the subrecipient agreements signed.
Okay. And what do you advise us in terms of should we base our ask amount or request amount around previous years' disbursements?
Well, it depends on what you're applying for,
Right.
whether it be home, ESG, or CDBG.
Mm-hmm.
With CDBG, public services, we can only provide 15% is the maximum cap we can provide for out of our allocations. So we really don't have too much to give to each agency. So keep that in mind when you're applying.
Okay.
And also just make sure that you're also showing everything that you have in terms of matching. That's a pretty important element as well. We typically don't like to be the only source of income for the program, or funding rather.
HUD likes to see that your program can be self-sufficient without CDBG programming funds. So you'll have to indicate where your other source of funding is coming from. Does anybody want to speak who may have been funded in the past as to how CDBG has assisted you?
Yeah, this is Reverend Maya. Good afternoon, everybody. We are just grateful for the City of Utica for the support and in reference to ESG funding, especially during the COVID-19, our shelter, we have so many more requirements. And so that extra support from the city was greatly appreciated. Requirements from maintaining face masks, giving face masks to the clients, being able to reduce occupancy, but still deliver the same process. And so we greatly appreciate your help. And the same thing with CDBG. You guys make a difference and we appreciate your help.
Thank you, Reverend Meyer.
Speaking of COVID-19 and the new challenges everyone is facing, are there feelings out there, ideas out there, what your agencies are looking to do maybe to adapt to this, this new reality, or different ideas that you've been thinking about as far as programming?
I think we all had to adjust to COVID-19, and that started in March, April, pretty much soon a year. And especially with the children's program, there, everybody goes back and forth. We all know the children need to have programs. So we went to the homes, we go to the homes, we started with family groups because of the risk of mixing different individual families. So that's what we started in 2021, and just concentrate more on the families, get a whole family to Johnson Park and assist the parents with peer support and work on the educational part. We provided tablets as well for the smaller children, because school readiness is going to be a huge part, because those children next year or this year are still going back to school and they need to be ready. So we started adapting last year, and we have to keep adapting depending on how COVID-19 goes.
That's great, thank you. Anybody else have any, anything they want to speak in regard to previous programming or anything that you're proposing you have any questions on?
Hi, it's Judy. I'm sorry, it's Judy Riley. If I could, if I may speak. So in the past, how are you?
Okay.
In the past, I had applied for CDBG funding for other programs. So with Emmaus House, our shelter for homeless women and children, I'm going to apply this year for funding. And particularly because of COVID, our capacity is incredibly limited in comparison to the number of people we typically would be able to have. So for instance, right now, we have 6 women and 2 children, and that's maxed out because each family unit needs their own room, and we have 6 rooms. In the past, in the non-COVID times, that would accommodate 15 women and then additional infants. So you can see what that does both for the people who need emergency housing as well as our agency. So one of the things that I wish to apply for funding for, and hopefully it will be, is one of, it's a high efficiency air filtration system, and also some of the plexiglass barriers that will at least let us double our capacity. Is that something, and I have no funding for that currently.
Oh, so you're wondering if that would still be eligible and considered without a match?
Yes, I could, right. I could certainly utilize, I can use some funding from, for instance, I have DSS, money that comes in that helps pay for people's stay, if that could be considered a match.
That's something we would want to review to get back to you with.
Okay, yeah, I could really utilize some assistance with that because my funding streams are rather limited, as you might imagine.
Have you applied for ESG funds?
No, that's what we would be applying for.
Okay. That's CDBG, so I'm sorry, my mistake.
So does ESG have to have a match? I didn't see that.
Yes, ESG is dollar for dollar.
Okay.
But
And are there confines as to where?
Things like staff
Say
salaries,
that again.
benefits, other things that your organization pays for in your budget could also be considered match.
Okay, all right. That's fair then. All right. Okay, good enough. Thank you.
You're welcome. Are there any other questions out there? Well, if not, if you think of anything,
If something comes up, but can we shoot you guys an email?
Yes. Absolutely. So we're available by email. You can contact myself, Chris Lawrence, Derek Crossman, Mike Peak, and Eddie DeCarlo. If you think of anything before tomorrow, we will be meeting again tomorrow at 6 p.m. Via WebEx. So if you join us, you can feel free to ask any questions you may have thought of overnight. If there are no other questions, we'll conclude this meeting and we'll reopen tomorrow.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.